Of course, there's a nice chunk of the fuel price in South Africa that's made out of taxes. What are these?
Yeah, good morning, Dan. Look, I mean, the thing is, when we look at the fuel price, there are two basic factors that influence that. The first is the international petroleum prices, international oil prices, and the second is the Rand-US dollar exchange rate. For July, when we look at those numbers, the international petroleum prices were actually lower than they were the previous month. Had they not been lower, this increase that we are going to experience tonight at midnight would have been substantially higher. The weakness of the Rand really contributed to the 26 cents a litre increase that we are expecting, or that will come into effect tonight. So had it not been for the Rand, we may have seen a reduction in the price. Unfortunately, we're seeing an increase. When it comes to the taxes, you're absolutely correct. 5.30 Rand of every litre of petrol is paid towards indirect taxes in the form of the general fuel levy and the road accident fund levy. Now, there are arguments that suggest that maybe we should make these taxes higher and then do away with other taxes. But unfortunately, in the current realistic situation that we're in, these taxes comprise a big chunk of the amount of money that we pay every month for petrol. And when we look at petrol being around 15.80 Rand or 16 Rand a litre, it is going to hurt all consumers. We understand that. But we are specifically concerned because we think it's going to be hurting the poorest of the poor as well. So we are very worried about these taxes that have been added to the fuel price, not only the taxes, but the rate at which they've been increased. And we would like to see that if they are increased in future, they're increased in line with inflation instead of higher than inflation, as has been the case in the past 2 years.
I mean, some people are wondering each time the taxes are increased. For instance, you mentioned the road accident fund. I mean, they've been in the news recently for the wrong reasons with all kinds of allegations. I mean, should they be, for instance, people like the road accident fund be getting more money from us as taxpayers?
Yeah, that's a difficult question to answer for the AA, and I mean, I think that may be better answered by politicians or by the RAF and government, the Department of Transport. I think from our point of view, Dan, when it comes to the taxes that are paid, we know that R1.93 Rand goes to the RAF to compensate victims of car crashes or of road crashes. Excuse me, I think the question that people will be asking is, are we getting value for the money that we are spending on those taxes? And when we say that we need to have a rethink about the taxes that are added to the fuel price, I think this is where the debate needs to go. Are we getting value for money from the money we are spending or that we are paying for taxes? And is there anything we can do to deal with that or to alleviate that pressure?
Yes. I mean, there are all kinds of commentators who are saying there should be other ways of skinning the cat, so to speak, regarding taxes. But already, Layton, we are seeing pressure coming out of some civil society movement. We spoke to a Mr. Reddy yesterday in the Morning News Today in Durban, who is starting a movement asking South Africans to take to the streets and to wear black and start protesting against the increase in fuel prices. But our government can only control the taxes. The rest, the price of oil internationally and the Rand-dollar exchange rate, that's really beyond government control. But when it comes to where South Africa buys oil, in terms of oil prices, from an AA perspective, do we have a choice here where we could shop around? I mean, there's all kinds of things happening currently with OPEC, Donald Trump making noises on Twitter, and it's all affecting us.
Yeah, look, I think, I mean, we get a lot of the oil from Singapore and Malaysia at the moment in the Middle East, and I think that process is quite refined. I don't think that if we were to go anywhere else to look for oil, it would necessarily be cheaper. And you're quite correct. When it comes to the oil price, there's very little South Africans can do. In fact, there's very little the South African government can do. In terms of the Rand-US dollar exchange rate, there's also very little that we can do as South Africans in terms of making that a more favorable exchange rate for the Rand. Obviously, the government needs to create an environment for investment. The economy needs to be attractive to people in order for the Rand to strengthen against the US dollar. So that's definitely something that the government can do. But essentially, both of those factors are outside of the control of just ordinary South Africans. And in our opinion, a boycott or a protest, while well-intentioned, may not necessarily have the desired effect. And when we consider that people have to use petrol to either get to work or to get home or to take their kids to school or whatever the case is, it may be that you can have a boycott for a day or even 2 days. But the days after that, people will simply go and fill up again, and the cycle will repeat itself. I think from our point of view, a broader debate on how the petrol price is put together, and specifically around this issue of the taxes that are added, is where this needs to go now rather than to the streets, because I think that is going to be more constructive in the long run in dealing with the price fluctuations that we have in our fuel.
Thank you.